zip code, and today we are not looking at a cup of code, but we're looking at how to back up our code and version control our code changes and updates. So talking about Git and GitHub, and this is so if you're wondering what Git and GitHub is, you came to the right place because we're going to be discussing all of that. So essentially, Git and GitHub is basically an open source source control management system. So it's Git SCM, and what Git does basically is to version control our file changes. So this is the most appropriate and reliable way to actually back up our files. And if you're a developer, back up your project, be able to make changes to any file or your project, and also the capabilities of reverting, and also collaborating with other developers working on the same project, and you'll be able to use a specific repo to create your specific branches for different features, different bug fixes, and you'll be able to match back into your common repository, into your release branch, and be able to deploy all the fixes and the new features that you guys have. So if you are subscribed to my channel and you're following up with my code tutorials, you know that I'm much more on Spring Boot and Angular. So the last video that I uploaded was Spring Boot file storage using Postgres database, Spring Boot, and Spring Data JPA. So we're going to be using this project as an example of how we can actually set up our account on Git, download Git or onto our machine, set it up, and actually push our project into a Git repository and see all of our changes being tracked and be able to revert back. So going forward, if you're a subscriber on my channel, all my projects, Angular and Spring Boot, they'll be now pushed into a Git repository for each project, and you'll be able to pull all of those projects if you want to use some of the features that I showcase in my channel, and be able to use them in your daily project and plug in some of the features that I have. So with all of that being said, let's start and see this in action. So the first thing that we want to do is to sign up, of course. So we want to sign up here. Let's just wait for Git to do its thing here. Let's see, welcome to Git. Let's begin an adventure. Enter your emails, or I want to use one of my email. I'll just say studios@zipcode.com. I want to use that one, and create a password, and I will create my password here, and to say continue. Enter username. I want to say zipcode studios, so that is available. So I want to say continue. Would you like to receive product updates and announcements via email? Yes, of course, because this is a tutorial email that I've set up, so that's not a problem. So we have a small puzzle that we can actually solve here. Let's see, it says pick one square that shows two identical objects. So these look identical, so that's fine. And see, the next one is these look identical. Select that, and everything looks good. Now Git is happy. Let's just scroll down, say create account, and now we need to actually enter a passcode that was sent to our email. Let me just refresh my email right here. Let's see if that came through. Voila. So here's a GitHub launch code for Zipcode Studios. Let's just copy this. You can literally copy this to minimize the number of tabs that we open on there. So here, how many team members will be working on this? Let's just say 2 to 5. Are you a student or a teacher? Let's say teacher, and let's continue. And let's see what we can have here. Obviously, we can select a few collaborative code, CI/CD. Obviously on CI/CD, based on what CI/CD tool that you'll be using, Jenkins and the likes, you'll be able to set up all of those to wait for changes on your Git branch, and then it will just be able to deploy automatically, or you would want to actually kick off any changes manually after committing those changes. And of course, I would prefer that if you are in like an enterprise situation, you would have a code review before all of that, so that will be fine. So let me say project management, that should be fine. Yeah, we can continue with these. I'm happy to actually continue. Then you are welcome with this screen here to choose the package that you want. And of course, since I've mentioned it is open source, so we can just say continue for free. So that will be fine with us. Welcome to the new world. Voila. Initializing your dashboard, so that looks good. And obviously we do not have a repo, so we need to create a repository, and we can create one just now, so that's not a problem. Let's see, help us personalize your feed based on your preference, guys. Obviously you'd want to select a few. So let me say artificial intelligence, automation. Let's say beginner friendly, CSS, HTML, JavaScript. Let's say machine learning. Let's say mobile, open source. I'm not a Python developer, but if you are a Python developer, you can just take that. React, I'm not a React developer, and you can just take that, so that's fine. Let's say tutorials, and then TypeScript. As you know, this channel we focus mostly on Angular and TypeScript, so that will be fine with us. So that will be all. And let's see, so you have a couple of accounts here that you can follow if you want, and obviously you will get feeds based on all of those. So I won't follow anything as yet, but as we go along on the channel, maybe we'll get to follow a couple of these guys. But for now, we are set up with Git and everything looks fine. So we just need to create a repository. So let me just create one and see where that takes us. So this repository, let me call it, let's see the project that we're dealing with here on Spring Boot. So this DB file store, and I will just call it DB file store. So this is fine. The description, this is a Spring Boot file storage, let's say tutorial, projects. Let's see that tutorial. Did I put an R there? Interesting. So this will be public, obviously, and you can say add a README file. That's the okay. Gitignore template. Let me say Gitignore template. Let me see if actually Spring does have one now. Oh, Spring doesn't have one now. Okay, we'll just go with Java, so that's fine. It would be interesting to actually have one for Spring there, but I think they're going with the Java one, so that's fine. So license, we can choose a Apache license since this is Java. We can be more specific on the license that you prefer. If you know what your project spec is, and that will still be fine with the license that is according to your project. But for now, we're just gonna go with like the default Apache license 2.0. And also I would actually recommend that you read the licenses, understand what they're about, and before you select one. So this is just for tutorial purposes, so we just set that up and we're good to go. And now we have a repository here. So the default branch is if you're new, basically the default branch has changed from master. So in the previous years it was a master branch, so now they changed it to be main. So there's no difference in what they do. It's actually just a renaming of the branch. I don't know why they did that, but there should be a good explanation. But I'm not satisfied with the explanation, but it's still the same thing. Master or main branch is the same thing. So if you hear, if you're a new developer or junior developer, you hear maybe senior or tech lead or architect telling you about a master branch, or they're telling you about the main branch, they're talking about the same branch. So that's it. So then that is going to be our main branch here, which is now set up. But as you can see, there is nothing on this branch. We don't have anything that is of interest here. So we can now start actually to look at Git commands, because now this is where you need to start working with Git and understanding what Git does. So you now have a Git account. So let's see what actually Git is and how we can set it up. Oh, before we go to what the Git commands, let's start with the Git download and setting it up on your machine. So please note that I am on Mac OS, but if you go into your browser, type in Git download, you will see a link here, which is Git SCM. I don't want to say the first link because it might be a different link on your browser, but you want to go to Git SCM and go to Git downloads. So on the Git downloads, let's just go to the home page. So on the home page, this is where you land, and you want to go to the downloads. Then on the downloads, based on the operating system that you have, you would then download Git. So Git, when you do a Git installation, it does come with the Git bash, which is like the back end engine that runs the entire backbone of what Git does. So it will come with that. And for macOS, obviously they will give you a couple of commands. And I think for Linux, it will be the same thing. You'd have a number of commands: apt-get, install git, and then you will set it up according to that, and you will do that. But for Windows, I think Windows download is the simplest of all. So based on the operating system that you have, then you will just download that one and set it up. So I am on Mac, and I do have Git on my machine. So one thing I can just do now is just to go to Temi. I want to go to the terminal, so let's go there, and then should come up now. Boom. Right, so we want to say git dash version. Let's just see that. So my Git version is 2.24.3 as of this recording, but obviously as the latest version comes, I would recommend that you always update your Git so that you're on the latest version, and you also have the latest features available on your source control. So that is, so if you do not have Git, you can just write the same command, and it will fail running the command and tell you that Git command is not found or something like that, to show you that it doesn't know what you are looking for. So we do have Git on my side. I do have Git, but based on your workspace, you would then need to set it up. So now that we have Git, and I also do have GitHub Desktop to make my life easier. So if you're a new developer and you don't want to be dealing with the command line interface, you don't want to be writing a lot of commands, I would recommend downloading GitHub Desktop. And also this is also based on the machine that you are using, or the operating system that you're using, either Windows or Mac OS, and you can set it up based on that. So we do have a Git, so if you go to education.git.com, also you do have a Git cheat sheet, which is education, that will take you through the different Git commands that you have. So I would recommend going through all of these so that you at least have a level of understanding of what is what happens where, and how things get set up as well. So the Git setup is a Git config globally on your machine. So if you have if you're not working on multiple different accounts on your machine, so you can just set up a global account, then you will use that global, that basically will be the default account on your workspace. And that default account, you'll be able to make code changes, commit, and pull and merge and run all the Git commands based on that. So you would basically go down here, inspect and compare, git log branch, and branch A. So it shows the commit history for current active branch. So you're able to do all of this, and also do like git diff to check maybe, let's say, your current working branch. You can diff that branch with another branch. So that's also very handy, because sometimes you make changes, and when you're trying to merge them, then it shows you that you cannot merge these changes because there's a conflict and you need to resolve the conflict. So how you resolve a conflict is for you to see the diff between your branch and the remote branch that you're trying to merge your changes to, and then that diff will assist you to pull changes that you need, and then measure changes, and then actually be able to commit the final result of that conflict resolution. So it is a conflict resolution. I don't want to name it something else, because that's what it is. So you will resolve a conflict and then merge the final result of that. So it's not a lot, but obviously you wouldn't keep all of these commands in your head. You'll most certainly keep the ones that you will be using a lot if you prefer the terminal. So git branch name, and it will be able to create a branch for you and all of that. Then you can git checkout, then you check out the branch, and then git merge branch, and you'll be able to merge changes from what you have into the branch that you are pointing to. So all of these commands will come in very, very handy as we go along. And if you don't want to deal with the commands or the terminal, then you have the desktop part of it, where you can actually set up everything. So with all of that being said, I know it's too much information for now, but let's also set up our Git desktop, because we won't be using the terminal, we'll just be using the desktop. So let's say clone from a repository, and then this is GitHub, and obviously you would want to on a first install, you say clone a repository, because you've set up your account on your browser. So you said github.com, and then you want to sign in here, and then you say continue with browser. So now it's going to take us to our GitHub account, and then you want to authorize Git so that it's able to retrieve your details. And let's see that. So this is what we have. And then local path, let's just choose a local path here before I clone that. So let me see, let me just do project, and I want to do studios. So let's go to zip code, let's go to zip code studios, and let's do Spring Boot. And in Spring Boot I will actually yeah, Spring Boot is fine, it can stay in there. So that is fine, and this is the repository we want. And then let me see here. Okay, so I'll just clone that into, so now it's cloning, boom, and it's all set up. So now I have DB file store as a, let me see, Spring Boot fix db is not what I want. But now that I've realized that my mistake, so it went to a folder that I don't want. So what I can do is actually do this. So I'm going to remove this, and I want to also move this to trash, and I say remove. Right, so now that I've removed it, I'm able to actually say clone it again, and I say choose folder. Let's see here, it went to folder that I don't want. I don't want this crap, I want it to go there. Then I say select, I want that, then I say clone. So let's say this again, and let's see where it went. So now it went to a folder which is called untitled. I have no problem with that folder because I can rename it. That's fine. I can rename the folder. That is still fine with me. And I can come back here and resolve my repository. So that's fine. This is a tutorial. So you can actually, oh, let's try to do it the right way. Let me just do it again. So I can remove this, also remove that, then remove, and then let me say clone repository from internet, and say, let's say choose, let's see here, untitled. No, I don't want untitled. Let's say studios tutorial. All right, so that is fine with me. So there will be that, and let's say select, and let's say select that, and then let's choose that. All right, so now if we look here, our project is in Spring Boot Studios DB file store. That looks good. Looks like something that we want. So now that we have that, if I go to my preferences here, and you look at the account, it's Support Studio, so I'm logged into that. Integrations on my side, I do have Visual Studio Code. Shell is the terminal, which is not a problem, and I do have zip code as the name, zip code studios, and that's the one. And appearance, that's the preference that I want. Notifications opened, prompts, and then advanced. So based on the preferences that you have, then that will be set up there. So also, you just saw now that it's integrated to Visual Studio Code, so that's why it's saying open in Visual Studio Code. But my project is not in Visual Studio Code, it's rather a Spring Boot application, and I use Spring Tool Suite. So Spring Tool Suite, same as Eclipse, nothing different. So if you're looking at my code and being like, why is he using Eclipse? So Spring Tool Suite, same as Eclipse, no difference. So now we want to get this project here to be version controlled, and we want to see our changes reflect here. So let's start, and let me see. We are in the main branch, so we can do an init commit, so that's fine. Just do a view on Git here. So everything still looks good, which means we are in the same branch basically, and that looks good. Now if you come back to our project, so we want to actually now set up Git with our project. So I am using Spring Tool Suite, so it might be a little different from your IntelliJ, your NetBeans, or your preferred IDE, which is not Eclipse or Spring Tool Suite. But you should be in a position to then just right click on the project and just say team, and you want to say share project. And so if you see here, you can say use or create repository in parent folder of project. So we don't want to select that because our repository is a little bit different. So let's just go to browse, and we are in the Spring Boot folder. And in Spring Boot, we said this is Spring Boot tutorial, and this is DB file store, and we say open, and we say finish, and now we have that repository available for us. And the working tree is the repository folder, which is fine, and this is the DB file store. So the current location is that, and the target location is our repository. So we just click finish, and it will configure everything for us. Now look at this. Our project is now version control. So there are all these question marks, and Git is like, okay, something has changed on this repo. There are files that are introduced. What do I need to do with these files? Now Git is set up. Let's go to Git dashboard. So if you go to Git dashboard, voila, all of our files and everything about our project is there. No Git command written, nothing complex. Everything is set up. Our project is now on Git, and we can simply say db file store init commit, and we just say db file store init commit, and we say commit to main. Then our files have been committed. Obviously this is a local commit, and even if you use the command or the terminal, you do a commit which commits to your local repository, then you have to push them into the remote repository, or you push them to origin. So now we push to origin, and we are going to check our files or our project in the browser. So we go back to the browser, and we just refresh the browser, and look at that. Boom. Now we have our project DB file store. It is there, and everything about project is now there. So any change that we now introduce on our code base will reflect on our IDE of what's happening, and it will be tracked based on any changes that we make. So let me make a simple change on, let's say, the service implementation here. So you can see all the question marks have been removed, and different icon is showing that all the changes have been pushed to a version control system. So that's just the IDE showing us that the changes are tracked. So if we are saying maybe there's a custom message on success, let's say, let me make, what changes can I make here? Just simple changes. I can even stop this. Just simple changes. Let's see here what we can do. Yeah, let's say instead of actually doing the split here on this, we want the string content, which is equals to the file content here, because we're decompressing a base64 string. Then we just say content is like that. So we save the file. Now you will see that this file will actually show that it has actually changed. So we made this change. So let's go back to Git update. So now we have Git desktop, so now the changes are showing here of what happened. So even on the pull request, if you were doing these changes on a different branch, it will show exactly like this of what changed and what was introduced. So we removed this line basically, and we added these two lines, and that's what we are doing here. So we can commit this change and just say, let's say base 64 string split into content variable, and we can basically give it the same description here. So base64 string split into content variable before decoding string value. Right, so that basically gives us the commit message that we have, and we can say commit to main. So obviously Committing to main is never recommended. So now we push these to origin, and our changes are now pushed into origin. So that looks fine. As I said that I'm using a different IDE. I know with IntelliJ, the moment that you make changes, you can like make a space here or something different. But the moment you make a change on a line, it will basically highlight that line on like a special color to show that there are changes that have been made there, because now it's version controlled, and you introduce new changes so that you know what you are doing. So basically that's it about Git. And if you comfortable with the terminal and you prefer using the terminal, you can basically go ahead and do that. So now let me show you that even with that, you can still be able to create a new branch. Let's say we want a new branch. We say I don't want to add a file actually. Cancel changes, discard all of those changes. So if you want to create a branch in Git, you just say, you type the branch here. So let me just say develop. So you see it highlights what is going to happen. So it's going to create a branch, develop from main. So it's going to pull anything that is in the main branch into the new branch that you're actually creating now, and you just click on that and it's going to do that for you. So now if you go into the list, you see that we have two branches, the main, which is default, and we have develop. So both of these branches are there. And if we go back to our Git desktop and we do a fetch from origin, and if you're using a terminal, you know that you just do a git fetch and it will fetch all the branches that are there or new branches that have been introduced. It will fetch everything. And a fetch is different from a pull, because a fetch, it just fetches what is in the origin without pulling changes in a specific branch. So it doesn't pull the changes from a branch, but it just looks at what is there, which branches have been introduced in origin, which is, let's say, call it the cloud. It fetches all of those new branches and then it puts them on your local. And then if you want to actually get new changes, you actually need to pull. So if you have pull request here, we don't have anything for now, but you can be able to pull any changes that are in a specific branch into your local branch. So now in origin, we have a origin develop. So develop branch we introduced 3 minutes ago, and if we double click on this, it will basically pull that branch into our local machine and then create that branch and have it ready for us. So now we can preview a pull request, the pull request, and you'll see that main from develop, there's nothing because there's no difference there. And then what we can do, we can create a pull request, but there's nothing that has changed. So now, because we are on develop, let me just cancel this. Because we are on develop branch, now this is the current branch that we are on. If we make any changes here, it will just, let's say now we say if, let's say if content is equals to null, let's just say, and content is equals to null. I'm just doing this because obviously if your content is equals to null, you would want to just return without having the file or throw an exception here, but I'm just doing that. I'm just doing this for the sake of this video. I'm going to remove all of these changes once this is done. So now I've saved those changes, then boom. So you can see here, so if content is equals to null, then content, set it to assign content to null, and that's that. So basically this is what we're doing, and actually we don't want to continue after setting this to null. We just want to return. That's it. Let's just return now. Yeah, let's just do that. That's the fine. Return now, so there's nothing for us to return. And then if you come back here, you'll see the changes will reflect on our Git desktop. And basically in the same way, we want to say check for base 64 content null, check for base 64 content null, and return null if no content provided. Let's just say available. So this just commit this, and we want to push this to, we want to push these changes. So now if we come back to Git and we refresh this, and you will see that this branch is one commit ahead of main, which tells you that main and develop are not on the same page. Basically, there are changes that are there on develop that are not there on main. So in this case, what you need to do is to create a pull request. That pull request is to say, the changes that I've made on my branch, I want to put them into the main branch. So then you need to pull the changes from the develop branch into your main branch. So then develop had recent pushes 1 minute ago, compare and pull request. Now all of these guys, I'm doing it without any command, and I'm just using interfaces, I'm using GUI, and everything still works fine. So this is to show that the way that tech has evolved, we are able to use the GUI to execute and perform the same tasks as if we were on a command line. And please note that I'm doing all this on remote, so I'm not doing them here on local. So Git Desktop is local and the browser is remote. So I'm merging and I'm creating a pull request on origin, which is the cloud basically. So let's say create pull request, and now my pull request is there. And with the pull request, obviously, if you have a number of collaborators that you have, say you have a tech lead, a senior dev, and whoever needs to approve or check your changes, you can basically take the link, copy this link, share it with them, and just tell them that, oh, I've made changes here, 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 here. Then they will come here and just say thumbs up or thumbs down, and also make comments, and you will address those comments and make a push. And when you make a push, those updates will basically reflect here. So as you can see, this branch has no conflicts with the base branch, which is the branch that we are pointing to. So we can merge the pull request because there are no approvers here. So we'll go on the next video of GitHub. We'll show how to set up rules and get those rules implemented. Obviously, I'm just one guy, so I don't think there will be any need for me to set up all those rules. But if you have like other collaborators in your repository, in your source control, you would want those people to approve before you can be able to merge. But that is not a big issue, so we can just merge these changes and then confirm merge, and those changes now are on the main branch. So if you go back and just click on this, so you see your main branch isn't protected, so that's fine. It is public, so if you are also on, you can basically go on this URL here. You will also see the code base for the DB file store, and you'll be able to pull that because it's public. So my branches are now aligned, but the changes that are on main here are not in this main here. So if I come back here and I say fetch from origin, I just refresh, and then that's going to tell me that pull 2 commits from origin remote. So now I can pull the changes that I've merged here into my local main branch before I can continue with the code changes that I want to do, so that I don't have conflicts when going forward. So I can just pull these and they will come back to my local, and then I can be able to continue with that particular branch that I'm on. And obviously you never code on main, you always code on your specific branch. Develop branch may be a branch that you want to build to your development or dev environment, and then you'll have a UAT or a QA environment, or where you'll have a QA branch that will be pointing to QA, so that each time you commit to these different branches, then your CI/CD can kick in and build those environments, and testers can start testing on those. So this is what we have, and I think so far this looks good. There's no need for a terminal. GitHub is advanced. I think using terminal is a much more way just for you to understand when you click on something, to understand what is happening. Am I doing a fetch? Am I doing a pull? Am I doing a push? Am I doing a commit? And all of those deeper background tasks that are happening when you run Git. So this is just a way to show you that you can use the GUI to actually interact with Git and do the same things. So basically, I'm going to leave it here because I don't want to make it too long. And I hope this was helpful. And I hope that you do like and subscribe and stick around for more videos on Git, GitHub, Spring Boot, Angular, and also going forward, we'll do some cool Docker stuff as well as Kafka stuff, because I'm looking into setting up all of those on my machine. But I already do have Docker here, so I'll be preparing that tutorial to take you through Docker installation, setting up the stuff that you need. So I do have a Postgres image here, a Postgres container from the Postgres image on my machine. So I'll be taking you through all of this cool stuff and these tools to use them. And once I've ironed out the beginner level of all of these tools, then I will build a full solution on starting from a Docker image that you would need maybe for your database, or whatever image that you will need to use on that particular project, getting our Spring Boot, getting our Angular. So that will be a full stack solution that will include all of these tools, and you will see everything in action. But for now, do stay tuned, and thanks for watching. Cheers.